of Nairobi, urging President Jomo Kenyatta then to release Mzee Jaramogi, the late Vice President. So what kind of feelings do you have about the Kenyatta family today, given what they have put your family through, especially the late Jaramogi?
You see, we have had a long relationship with the Kenyatta family. It started way back in 1952 when Jaramogi invited Kenyatta to come to Kisumu. And then Kenyatta, after Jaramogi, then seconded Oneko to become Secretary General of KAU. Then they were arrested and taken to Kapenguria and imprisoned, eventually detained. So Jaramogi maintained contact with the families of Oneko and family of Kenyatta. That's why when Jaramogi went to Legico that time, he raised Kenyatta's issue in 1958, the bombshell in the house, and championed the struggle to get Kenyatta released from detention. Ultimately, Kenyatta was released. You see, Jaramogi was alone in that motion which he moved in the house. The others disowned him. But eventually, Kenyatta was released and became the president. Jaramogi was his deputy. And they worked very well. And Kenyatta was a very frequent visitor in our home, even us in their home. Then the disagreement which came was over the land issue. I don't want to go deeper into that issue. And then when they split, then the opposition dissolved and came and joined KANU, ultimately took over KANU. Jaramogi resigned, Mboya was assassinated, and then now, eventually KANU took over. And the consequences are known. But you remember when Kenyatta died, Jaramogi went to State House, and you would see Jaramogi standing against the corpse of Kenyatta.
Yes. And
waving his fly whisk and talking. He talked deeply about Kenyatta. And he said that these people took Kenyatta away from me. Okay? So, even at death, Jaramogi still considered Kenyatta his friend.
So given that history of the two families, so we should not be surprised why you and Uhuru Kenyatta can work closely together.
Yes, I mean, we have been on different sides of the political divide, but we still have maintained the relationship right through. Okay? So it was natural. I mean, even the kids meeting and so on and so forth. So we understand that sometimes you may not be on one side politically, but that doesn't mean that you create enmities between families. Okay? Even when that was happening, the Uhuru's families, sisters and so on, they come to visit us here. My kids also meet with them. So we don't have a problem. We didn't have a problem. When we say, Doc, you cannot undo the past.
The history, yeah.
You cannot undo the history, but you can correct the mistake that was made in the past.
Now you have a new initiative, BBI. In a nutshell, in simple terms, what is BBI all about? The Building Bridges Initiative, what is it really all about?
You see, the BBI was, we said, look, let us look beyond just the paper things. You see, we have a new constitution. In fact, it took us a long time to prepare that constitution. The disagreement at Bomas, was just over two chapters. Then we disagreed. Later on, they went to Naivasha. Naivasha document, the agreement on those chapters was just a firefighting. So that is a work which is unfinished.
So is this meant to remedy?
Not just that. There are many other things. Which, you know, you have the institutions. These institutions are still not working. You have a new constitution. It is not working. So what is it that needs to be done to ensure that these things are working? What is amiss? That is the question that we put to ourselves. Then we identified other things and we said, look, let us look at all this and come up with something that will create an enabling environment to ensure that all this that is not working, this amiss, is working. You see, you've got the judiciary, which is supposed to be independent, yet you have got these challenges. The executive and the judiciary have an issue. Okay, you have an issue with these independent commissions, which have been set up, which are gobbling a lot of money. What is it? What are the net results out of all this? With the institutions we have, there should be no corruption. That look at the corruption index as produced by Transparency International. We're still one of the highest. We are playing in the Super League of corruption. The issues of ethnicity. You see, our national anthem says, "May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty." Why do you have a problem?
The things you mentioned, Mr. Odinga, which are in the document, which I have read, are all very clear. Trouble is, for a lot of Kenyans, BBI is just another burden on them. They do not understand what benefit it brings to the ordinary Kenyan. They see it simply as a vehicle for politicians to essentially enrich themselves. Now they talk about a third tier of government where you have regional presidents, you have you have governors, you have MCAs. At the moment, this agenda is in the hands of politicians, and for the ordinary person, they just see this as a necessary burden, especially because some of these things are already catered for in other in other institutions or other documents like the Constitution. Do you not feel that you are punishing Kenyans by imposing the BBI?
That the media, that is the version which is being propelled by the media. I talk to Kenyans. We just held 3 major rallies. That's the face of Kenya. We're going underneath there. But those who come there are Kenyans too. I don't know where the media get this other impression. They believe strongly.
But the ones who are fighting for that document are politicians. They're the ones on the podium saying, yes, we would like power to be divided in this way, and this way you've got governors seeking to extend into a third term through other means.
You cannot have a public rally where the whole public talk. There must be a few people talking. If you had, for example, yesterday in Mombasa, 30,000 people or 50,000, you expect all of them to be talking. There must be a few people talking. You see? So sometimes this media in this country, I don't know where to get these facts from. When
the other side of the BBI, let me call them, people who are allied to William Ruto, say they have no problem with the BBI, and people who are allied to the Jubilee government and others saying we have no problem with this, why is it necessary to conduct all these public meetings, spend millions and millions of taxpayers' money, when actually, if Kenyans want this thing to pass, they will actually pass it? Why do we have to go into that wastage of resources?
Another thing, how much do you think we spent in Mombasa yesterday? But the media has spread the propaganda, this thing is millions and millions. Which millions are these ones you're talking about?
As we understand it, there's
those people who come there don't need to be transported. They come themselves, they walk into the meeting. All you have there is a podium and a PA system.
There's a budget set aside for the task force, the BBI task. That is taxpayers'
money. You've been talking about 10 billion shillings.
Yes.
Where is that? Who has spent that 10 billion shillings?
So it's not true.
It's not true.
So BBI will be run without a budget?
I really wish the media in this country can care to find the facts. Because it mislead the people. They say they've spent 10 billion. Who was spending those billions? Now where is that billion coming from? This is not true. This thing is being done very cheaply. Very, very cheaply indeed. We are so wasteful in this country. Like Kenyan election, for example, cost per election, per ballot in Kenya is over $7. In the US it is 40 cents. In Europe it is 70 cents. So Nigeria is the one that follows Kenya at $4 per ballot.
We do our
That's
stuff
why
expensive.
like this referendum which is coming here does not need to cost more than 3 billion shillings.
But there are other costs, Mr. Odinga. You talk about the referendum. In Kenya, election seasons are very costly for the economy. The economy slows down because of the uncertainty and potential instability. We've just had 2 elections not too long ago in 2017. You're not proposing a referendum which will further slow down this economy, followed maybe in another year or 2 by another election in 2022. This is very, it's very difficult on the economy.
Yes, Joe, I agree with you totally. I want to invite you to believe with me that there's no country in the world that is like Kenya. You cannot replicate Kenya. The issues really which we need to address, for example, electoral violence and which causes the uncertainty. You see, we have a cycle here where 1 year before the elections, the economy almost shuts down. The investors are scared, they don't know what's going to happen, there's uncertainty. And then a year after the elections, again, the economy is still not working. So you've got 2 years that you spend when the economy is not working.
So now you're making it worse with the referendum.
And you see what I'm trying to say, that, no, that's what we want to cure. You know, recently, they had an election in the UK, just last month. You see, and the country is working. So even before that, they dissolved it and just said, we are going to go for an election. And they went, the results were announced, and they're moving on. And if you look at what they spent, compared to what we spent here, it's far much less than what we spent as a country.
And you feel BBI will fix that?
It must fix that. That's why we're talking about divisive elections. Okay? So let's look at this way. When we talk about power sharing, that is a structure of governance that exists virtually all over the world. Okay? So we need to look at it in a much more broader terms, because the issues, you go to a country like Tanzania, they don't have the issue of ethnicity, which we have here in this country. So you must understand that the country, that the society that we are leading here is a very brutal society, a very unjust society,
so
a very unfair society, where because it is you've worked in this place here for 20 years, somebody who comes from a community who is correct, comes from somewhere there, but you want to create a position with them, you are sacked from this position where you've been for 20 years, you have a family, you know, they can never get another job which is pensionable at your age because you now have advanced and so on. This is happening in this country. These are serious issues that we must address as a country, as a people. So, okay? And also the issues of governance up there. When people are talking, we want to expand the executive. Or you're trying to create jobs for the people. It's not a question of creating the jobs for the people. You're trying to create a government that is more encompassing. That means, because you already have the people, you have 2 people up there.
So, just on that point about one of the recommendations, which is to expand the executive, possibly, you know, position of Prime Minister, where do you see yourself in that structure?
I don't see myself in that structure at the moment. I've never said that I want to be in any of those positions. We are talking about Kenya as Kenya. Me and Uhuru, we are not looking at ourselves in the mirror of ourselves. What role are we going to play in this government? We are trying to look at a structure that meets the requirement of the people of Kenya. And you know, when we had Bomas of Kenya, which is a conference that went for a much longer time, we had positioned there in Bomas of Kenya. We had a mixed system of government in Bomas. We had a president and a vice president. We had a prime minister and two deputy prime ministers. That was after very exhaustive debate and discussion among the...
So just to be clear, Honorable Odinga, what will your role be after, assuming the BBI passes the referendum and is implemented? What will be your role, or what will be your place?
I myself, I've got many things to do here. You've just been asking me why should I not leave it for the younger people, okay? So
will you leave it for younger people?
I've said I've never said I want to be anything after, I mean, in the 2022. I've not.
Do you have any plans for running for any seat in 2022 elections?
That is not a subject I want to talk about. I've said it. I'm not talking about 2022. We're talking about BBI.
BBI is also leading to 2022. These changes are meant to effect.
I've told you, I've not said that I want to be anything.
So when people name you as a potential prime minister?
That's their wish. I have no power to stop them from talking.
What about Uhuru Kenyatta, as far as you know? What's his future? Because you're in this the two of you are in this together. What's his role after 2022?
He has said it. He has said it clearly, but I don't want to speak for him. Okay, I guess you will go and have an interview with him and ask him.
So, what come 2022 or after that? So the title of His Excellency President Raila Amolo Odinga, that title is a title you would not carry in this country in the future?
I've said I don't want to talk about 2022.
For the moment.
Can we move to another topic?